Welcome to the You Can't Afford Me podcast, where we skip the fluff and dive straight into the grind. Real entrepreneurs, real struggles, and the unfiltered journey behind success. Let's get into it. Hey guys, thanks for joining us on another episode of the You Can't Afford Me podcast. So you guys know how passionate I am about the game of golf. Obsessed, been golfing for like 3 years. And two of my favorite things are probably business and golf. So we got the perfect guest today. Patrick is with us today. He's the co-owner of Indoor Golf RVA. Patrick, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm great, Sam. Thanks for having me in. Glad we could connect and appreciate you choosing a perfect day for me to walk across the street to your nice offices.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're neighbors right across the street from each
down
other.
in Rockets Landing. Yep.
So in 30 seconds, give everybody a quick rundown of who you are and what you do.
30 seconds. I am the owner of
I'll give you 45 seconds.
Indoor Golf RVA, as you said. So we have two 24/7 golf facilities in Scotts Addition and Rockets Landing. It operates kind of like a 24/7 gym, so our members can let themselves in anytime, use one of our golf simulators to work on their game, play courses, get some data on their swing. And we try to create a good community atmosphere as well. Like we host social events for our members, host tournaments, and try to provide a lot of the things that some more expensive private golf clubs would provide.
Yep.
And, on top of that, I love the game of golf as well. I'm a father to 2 kids, so I have plenty of stuff to keep me busy.
Nice.
But, yeah.
Sounds like me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you totally understand. Yeah.
So let's start pre-Indoor Golf RVA. What were you doing career-wise?
Yeah, it's a good question. So when we first started, I had been working in the chemical industry for about 8 years. And this is around 2001 when the pandemic was going on. Golf was one of the few things you could do. And so because of that, all the golf courses around here started getting busy. Remind me when you picked up golf? It was probably around the same time, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
A little right after the pandemic started.
So you and a bunch of other people started playing golf around that time. And so courses got busier. Driving ranges were always packed. And my brother kind of came to me with this business idea. He was super familiar with the golf technology and kind of wanted to lean on me for the customer service aspect and getting new members signed up. And so we started this as just part of our 9-to-5 jobs. I'd go to my normal job in the chemical industry. After I clocked out there, would just be working, building out the facility, trying to figure out how we get customers, showing customers the facility, all that kind of stuff. Lots of weekends working. And as you know, any business you start up, the beginning is always such a grind. You're just trying to get business, trying to get your name out there. And so after...
Well, you dropped the gym right there. I want people to understand.
Yeah.
When you're building a business, work 9 to 5 for someone else, but work 5 to 9 for yourself.
That's I think is the best way to do it, just because it reduces so much risk, right?
Yeah.
And that's the challenge with starting any business is the risk involved with it. You don't, especially when you're starting a new concept or something that's not really proven, you don't really know for sure that's going to work, and we didn't either. So we tried to think of ways that we could reduce the risk. That was 1, starting with it as a part-time job. It was 2, starting with a facility that was tiny and only had 1 golf simulator, where we could expand later on. But that was really the most capital-intensive part of starting a business, is the technology.
Yep. Yeah, because you're telling me the track masters are like 25 grand
just
a pop.
for that. And then so for the full simulator, it's a lot more. So it's very capital intensive for each simulator bay. And so, I think that's, if you're risk averse and have a lot to lose, like having had an 8-year career and not wanting to just throw everything down the toilet that I had earned at that point, it was kind of a good way to go about it. And so fortunately things worked out. I quit my other job about a year after we opened. So for 2 years now, this has been my full-time job.
So let's pause right there. Yeah. So first, I'm always interested. I always feel that entrepreneurs are born, not made. Were there people in your family? Like, where did the entrepreneurial spirit come from? Was it from the Instagram videos we always see?
So it's kind of I mean, I think it's just the perfect storm of my brother and I's experience, our love for golf, but also like our various experience. So I worked in supply chain, marketing, and product management. He worked in finance and accounting. And those are all things you need to run a business, right? Especially a physical business where you do need the inventory management of supply chain. You need the marketing piece of figuring out how to grow it. And then you need the finance and accounting piece, which I know nothing about, and filing taxes is pretty important. So it's a really good mix. Yeah, it's a really good mix, and it's just kind of funny because I'd worked for DuPont for a long time, really just saw myself like having a long, stable career working for a large company. That's how my parents operated. You know, my dad worked for Kodak for over 30 years.
Nice.
And so I always, I learned a lot from their hard work and their work ethic, but there was never, in my mind, like until this came about, there was never a thought of like, hey, I'm going to run my own business someday. It was always kind of, I'm going to work my way up in a big company and have success that way.
Yep.
Just because of the safety net that provides, right? If you do a good job for a big company, there's a lot less downside to owning your business where every cent you make is yours, but every cent you lose is a cent lost to you as well. So
very true.
High risk, high reward, but it's been a lot of fun, not just, just kind of meeting new people in the community as well. And that's been a fun benefit that I didn't expect, is like meeting more golfers and kind of learning the golf industry throughout Richmond.
Yeah. What was the reaction from your family? Because brothers are going into this business together.
Yeah.
I'll never forget my mom's first reaction when I told her I quit my day job and I was starting a business. She was like, her first response was, "What about your health benefits?" My response was, "It's bad for my health continuing to work for this other company because it's driving me crazy."
Yeah.
So what was the reaction from your family? Did you receive a lot of support? Was there a lot of speculation?
A bit of both. I mean, there's tons of support just because that's the way my family is. I think there was kind of like curiosity of how this would work. And with it being more technology focused, my parents had a lot of questions. They've been golfing their whole lives, but never really with simulators and things like that. To that point you make about healthcare, like I wouldn't be able to do this without my wife and my family. Like I literally use her benefits. So it's that's a huge piece as well. And having that support has been not just, financially, but emotionally, someone to, like a sounding board to talk to. Like she doesn't love golf like I do, but she has great ideas. And I think that almost helps in a way because I can like say a bunch of stuff as a golfer and she can kind of provide feedback as a non-golfer and be like, well, wouldn't it make more sense to do this way?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Our maps all
got stuck in I kind of get stuck in the golf hat and not like the business hat of things.
Because we're like, oh, I can go out and invest in this $1,200 driver and it's going to improve my game. And our wife's is like, I don't think that's going to shave off too many strokes.
Yeah, she doesn't see the benefit of that. But I'm not a huge club junkie, fortunately, for her. But we have plenty of members who are. So
nice.
Yeah.
Now talk to me, because all of my businesses I've ever started have been, I mean, you're in a service-based industry, but you have a storefront. Talk to us about the process of first, like, did you use OPM, other people's money, to get this business off the ground? And what did that process look like, having to go out and raise?
No, it was just all bootstrapping. So my brother and I, having worked careers for a while, had the money, fortunately, to kind of start on our own, but it was limited, right? We're not like taking out loans. We're not trying to raise a bunch of money. We wanted to keep our pieces of the pie, and that meant just saving every dollar we could, being as smart as we could, going back to keeping our normal jobs. So we had a source of income to continue fueling the business through that startup process, but also just finding creative ways to start up with a low cost and kind of figure out how to expand from there.
So did you guys already have savings when you were ready to launch the business, or when you guys came up with the idea, it was like, okay, we still need to save X amount?
It was a bit of both, right? I mean, like, we had already saved enough money to kind of figure out how to do it on our own. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And once my brother came up with the idea, it was pretty quick. Like things, like we started looking for a commercial space, signed a lease, right, and just got things moving pretty quickly since we had the money. But yeah, you just have to be creative in any business, right? There's businesses that start with a few $100, but it is tough, I think, when you run a business with a storefront. I think a lot of entrepreneurs get carried away with the build out and having all the bells and whistles, and that can be pretty expensive pretty quickly. So that's pretty tough, and really just making tough decisions on what's going to benefit you as a business and what's important to your customers, and always trying to keep that lens on things.
So how did you guys decide? I'm sure there was a lot of research that went into this, and like when the PGA Superstore opened up in Richmond, like I was reading that BizSense article and recognizing that they obviously, a brand like that is definitely doing their research. And they recognize the fact that like Richmond is one of the fastest growing areas for the sport of golf right now. So how did you guys determine, even though you lived here, how did you determine that this was going to be the place to launch this business?
I guess, I mean, when we first started, you don't really know. Right? Like it was really, we're not a multi-million-dollar company like PGA Superstore. We don't have the data they have. We don't have the research they have. So it was really a lot of gut instinct and that feeling of, hey, these golf courses are packed, the driving ranges are packed, the golf industry, all the club manufacturers are raising their prices. We've got to take advantage of
make golf
somehow.
cheap again.
Yeah, exactly. And that's really part of our goal. Is golf got so expensive, so inaccessible from like where you can go to play, right? And like I don't want to have to drive an hour to play golf. That just seems kind of ridiculous. And like if you go to the gym, your gym's probably within 10 minutes of where you live. And so we wanted the same kind of concept. Let's bring golf to the people. And that's why we started really small. And our goal is kind of on expanding in little pods where it makes sense. And of course, in a city where there's not a lot of golf courses, that makes more sense than maybe in the suburbs where there's more space for golf. But even there, you find golf courses filling up. You find golf courses closing. In the last few years, 2 golf courses in Richmond have closed to put down housing or for renovation. And so it's a supply and demand issue. So I guess to answer your question, we had no idea if it would work or not. And that's part of the risk you have being entrepreneurs. You can look at all the data, you think you can like be super sure of things. And at the end of the day, like there's a reason that so many businesses fail is because it's never a sure thing.
You said one major gym there was you trusted your gut, which I had to learn that mistake on early on where like, I never want to be the smartest guy in the room. I always want to be with people that are bigger, better than me. Like I remember when I first moved here, I started working out at a YMCA and like it was nothing but like 70, 80-year-old people in there. And I'd be putting up like 115 on the bench and they're like, oh my God, he's so strong.
Standing around you, admiring your work.
And then I got the Gold's Gym and I was like the smallest guy on the block there. So it's like all about who your circle is. But, sometimes you can get the advice, you can look at the numbers, but like as an entrepreneur, I think you just have to trust your gut because I've been advised by some very smart people before. And I just knew like, I get what you're saying, but like this is going to be the best thing for me. And I just have a good feeling that this is going to work out. And at the end of the day, like you guys didn't have to take on investors. You didn't take out loans. So if it's like, if it doesn't work, you can always go back and get a job.
Exactly.
Like it's not like this is the end of it.
That was the idea.
Yeah. Talk to us about what were some of the first lessons you learned. So your first location's been open 3 years, and your new location's been open a year. Talk to us about, give me your top 2 or 3 things that you learned about owning a storefront business in the first year.
Yeah, I think a key part of that question is storefront business because I think the commercial real estate aspect is a very underappreciated piece. And I think, you go through life renting apartments, it's a simple transaction. Hey, the rent's $2,000 a month. This is the space you get.
Ain't that simple in commercial?
Yeah, no, absolutely not. There's, you get it, right. You're renting an apartment, you get it for a year. This is the price. In commercial real estate, everything's negotiable. And that's from free rent to build out costs to length of the lease term. And so when we first opened our first facility, I think we naively thought, let's just negotiate this ourselves. We'll save some money. We'll save on the real estate fee. In hindsight, maybe should have leaned more on some experts, right, and figured out what we could have gained from someone with that expertise. Just because there is so much more than here's the price you're going to pay and here's the square footage you get. So that was probably the biggest lesson learned. And number 2 is just. It's really tough when you're starting out your own business you're saving every dollar you can, right? And like I said, we start with our own money, didn't have much to start with, and didn't want to overspend. And so I think it's hard to justify spending money on advertising. Whereas when you're in a service business like us or you're in any physical storefront business, I would guess that from our experience, that pays dividends in the long run. If we got more members when we first opened, naturally we're going to make more money than after we grow and word of mouth, and things are going much better now. And that's how we get most of our business. We don't spend a lot on advertising, but I do wish we had maybe front-loaded some ad spend and kind of bet on ourselves a little more to grow the business that way and raise more awareness that we were starting, just because the longer you have a customer, the more money you're gaining. And so that advertising early on, I think, just pays off more than when you've been open a while and your business is established, you've got great Google reviews, and customers are bringing their friends, spreading word of mouth, and you're kind of getting out there that way. That eventually happens, but I do think that early on there's a lot of heavy lifting to kind of get the brand out there, and that's the challenge with any business, I think, is just getting the name out there and getting people to know you exist. You could be the only one doing it, which we were in Richmond at the time. But that doesn't matter if people can't find you. People don't know that you're there.
1,000%. Well, interesting enough, you're sitting across from a guy who does marketing full time. With that too, like I always I'm the social media video guy, and everybody think that's all I do. Marketing, like marketing is like a table that has chairs. Like there are different pegs of this. So I don't ever recommend that all somebody does marketing wise is social media or just video marketing. Like you need to be out networking. You need to be out shaking hands. Like sponsoring events may be a good thing to get your brand in front of people. Some businesses, billboards, TV ads, radio, depending on your demographic. Right. For brands like us, like our audience is not listening to local radio stations, so that's a waste of money to do something like that. But there's I know you mentioned gyms earlier. Gyms are great for direct mailers, and they know that if they're not hitting neighborhoods
half
within
of a
10
zip
minutes,
code. Exactly. That makes sense.
I've never met business owners that know their numbers better than gym owners. They know if I go one block over, the likelihood of me getting a client is next to none. But they're if I stay within this fold here, I'm more likely to capture more people.
That's exactly the same for us. I think it's the same for a lot of physical businesses, restaurants especially. If you've got a good restaurant 10 minutes from you, it's a good Italian place, you're not going to drive half an hour to the Italian place that's a little better. Same with gyms, same with us. I mean, there's several places like ours now around Richmond. The reason that broader media marketing I don't think works well for us is because we essentially end up advertising for those places. Most of our members live within a couple miles of our facility, which makes sense, and that's what we want. We want it to be convenient for people to practice. We don't want anyone driving an hour to golf for an hour. That just kind of reduces the benefit. So I think, that's a really good point, is not just relying on social media, because that might be too broad. And what other marketing strategies do you have, and what can you do marketing wise that's free and just takes your time? Showing up to events, just being at a community thing and just having a sign, right? That or providing things for charity auctions, in our space, charity golf tournaments make a lot of sense, and that kind of stuff. So trying to do whatever free advertising you can in that sense is, I think, a good way to go about getting the word out early if you are tight on a budget like we were starting up.
Absolutely. Talk to us about, I want to switch over here to expansion here in a second, but talk to me about how golf has helped you with business. I actually saw an article, I think it was entrepreneurial.com or something like that, where a lot of these larger companies, they're seeking to hire people who know the game of golf. So it used to be back in the day, hey, we got some big wigs coming from Japan or Chicago or something like that. Let's take them out on the town and have a good night. Now they're looking for employees that have a decent golf game that can take a client out, because so many circumstances, there have been people I've tried to get in front of, and I'm like, hey, man, you got time for a 15-minute meeting this week? And they're like, I'm too busy. But if a tee times opens up, they're like, hey, man, I got time for that. So it's I can go from getting 15 minutes with the CEO to now getting 4 or 5 hours with them on the golf course. And that relationship immediately builds, because you spend 5 hours with someone. I mean, that's
for sure. If they've got the time.
10 dates in one.
That's a good way to put it. If they've got the time, and who turns down free golf? Right? So that's a good way to even, if you're in the business world, that's a good way to connect with people. And I guess that's probably part of why, not only, I think I see it less than I used to. So having worked in business, I think it used to be a more common thing where you can go out and work on the golf course for 5 hours. I think maybe some companies are starting to dial that back.
Maybe a front nine or something like
yeah,
that.
Yeah, exactly. But you see like a lot of corporate events at Top Golf, that kind of thing. And it's less about being good at golf at those sort of things and more of just like,
Just having a good time.
Just having a good time and that sort of thing. But I mean, having worked in the golf industry since I was in high school, I think you learn a lot about networking, and you realize that it's a customer service industry. It's not really the golf industry, right?
Yeah.
Like you can know everything you need to know about golf, golf equipment, the golf swing. If you're not treating people right, if you're not, doing the appropriate etiquette on the course and all that stuff, people are just they're going to be pissed off at you or whatever it is, right? Like, so all that stuff kind of adds up, and it's the little things like that it's very similar to life, right? Like you treat people well, you treat it with respect, and it kind of comes back to you. And there are a lot of parallels, I think, to golf and life in that sense. And that's why there's so many programs like the First Tee, right? Trying to teach kids the game of golf at an early age.
Great program.
Because it does, it really does like instill a lot of good characteristics and a lot of good, I guess, just like responsibilities of like how to treat people and how to treat life.
Yeah. No, absolutely. What would you say to someone who, like, every guy I've ever met that's like my age, that our dads didn't teach us how to golf at an early age, like we're still pissed at our dads. Like, man, why didn't you put a golf club in my hand much earlier?
Yeah.
And in the younger days, like in most areas, like it's not cool to be a golfer.
Sure.
But the older you get, the older you get, it's like the golf trips that I take with my friends each year, it's like last trip we took to Myrtle Beach, I'm looking across and I'm seeing these guys that are like 70, 75 years old, and they still got their group of 15 guys still going out to golf every single year. And it's like
awesome. Yeah.
The longevity that you can build with relationships with this sport.
Yeah.
What would be your advice to someone that's considering picking up this sport? What would you say are the benefits to becoming a golfer?
I think longevity is a huge benefit. I think you nailed it right there. I mean, I'm not going to be able to play basketball with my kids forever. I'm not going to, go challenge my mom to any kind of sporting event. But you can go on the golf course with anyone, and it's a fair game. Like, you've got a handicap system to level the playing field, and played with my grandfather till he was in his 80s, and played with my parents today. Hope to play with my kids someday. Right? It's just something that everyone can do, regardless of age, and it's a great way to just get some fresh air, stay in shape. And there's a reason so many people picked it up after COVID.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun, and it's just a great way to get outdoors. And I think it has a lot of mental... To some people, I think mental detriments. I see a lot of people get angry on the course, but to some people, a lot of mental benefits to kind of get. Yeah, no, I agree with you.
We're not getting paid.
I've seen enough of it. I've seen enough to know that there's people who I think would mentally benefit from not golfing. But I think there's a lot of benefits to it of just getting out there, forgetting about your problems for a few hours. Which is hard to do in today's age. Yeah, for sure.
But it's like when you're out there, the only thing you can focus on is that little white ball that's sitting in front of you. You can't be thinking about payroll and all these other different things. Like, it's like, this is all that's in front of me.
Yep.
What would you say in terms about how the sport is changing? Like, for me, getting into golf, like, there's a stigma that golf is very stuffy, that, it's uptight, that, I'm not the kind of guy, I generally don't tuck in my polos.
Yes.
Like, I'm looking clean on the course. If you see me pull up, it looks like I'm a scratch golfer. I'm not. But I look like it. I invest in the clothing and the gear. But in terms of like other brands, like, you got Bad Birdie now. You got Eastside Golf, started by two brothers. Like, the scope and the demographic of golf, I think, from my vantage point, is drastically changing. What have you seen through your business in terms of the clientele that you guys are working with?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, I think that's part of what we try to combat is we are not a place that's going to have a really high initiation fee, be very exclusive. A lot of clubs now, you need like a reference to get in.
Yeah.
Like that kind of environment, I think, is tough for some people to overcome. So making things affordable. We don't have a dress code. We have very casual events like happy hours, things like that. And what's great about like the growth of golf in the last few years is that it is a lot of demographics that aren't just white men. Like I think women, there's been a 25% increase in women golfing in the last couple of years.
A lot of women out on the course.
I mean, lots more women and just lots more minorities. And I think that's great. I mean, I think that's a sign that golf is making the right strides of not being like that stuffy environment anymore. I think there's still some problems with that.
There's definitely something still
But
there.
I think, I think you find the right places to get out of that, and that's a place that we try to be as well. It's tough, like, golf courses need to cater to everyone, right? And so I think they try to strike the balance of, we've got the old guys who are in their 70s, like you said, have been golfing this way and demand that their shirts be tucked in and that you wear this and that. And you've got people that are new to the game and don't want to buy golf clothes if they haven't even tried golf.
Yeah. I will say
right?
golf polos are some of the best clothes, like dead summer.
Yeah.
If you're not a golfer, put on a golf polo, man. You'll stay super
Very
cool.
versatile. Yeah, no, it is a versatile fit, especially for the dads out there. But I think that a lot of brands like that are making good strides to help shift the tides of the stuffiness. But I think cost is going to be a problem for a while, and so post-COVID, a lot of local clubs jacked up their fees, jacked up their initiations. Yeah. And they had it's supply and demand, as I mentioned earlier. They had wait lists and they could do it. And so, maybe it'll take that changing to really do stuff. But you even see golf club brands coming out trying to counteract that as well, be more affordable, because someone's going to in every industry, someone's going to try to do something cheaper for the same price.
Absolutely.
You see Costco getting sued for knocking off TaylorMade's irons, which I love. That's awesome.
Those were reselling like crazy too.
Yeah, I think they still are. They are doing a great job of. They provide super cheap golf balls. I think they also got in trouble for trying to knock off Titleist.
By the way, if you suck at golf, don't go out and buy a Titleist balls.
No, absolutely not.
Because they're just ending up in the way. I was so proud of myself this past weekend. I only lost 3 golf balls.
There you go. Not bad, yeah.
So I'm I feel like I should get extra strokes when I don't lose all 2 sleeves of balls.
That's the nice thing about our facilities as well. You don't lose your golf balls.
You can't lose your ball.
I really hope that we're helping golf go in that direction. That's the idea, is and our free membership policy, free guest policy, is designed to encourage more people to get in the game as well.
Because you said a member can bring 3 people.
Exactly. So members can bring free guests, and the way I put it is my wife's never going to pay $75 to go golf with me, but she'll come to a place like ours for free, bring some food and drinks, and just have a good time like that. And we see other people doing the same with their significant others, their kids, and who wants to go buy clubs, buy the outfits, and do all that stuff to take their kid out to a country club, and they hate it.
Yeah.
Right? So bring your kid
That's my biggest fear, dude.
Yeah. Take your kid to the first tee, take your kid to our place, and try it out. If they don't like it, that's fine. Maybe they'll pick it up again. Maybe they'll pick it up like you would like it later in life.
Years down the road.
When they're done playing real sports, quote unquote, and looking for something more chill to do like us. So, I think that golf is heading in the right direction. I think cost is still going to be a barrier for that, but it is cool to see companies coming out with cheaper clubs, cheaper technology, and cheaper apparel as well.
Yeah. I do think there definitely need to be some options where it's more affordable, and expensive and affordable are relative terms.
Sure.
I remember first moving to Richmond, and restaurants that I thought were super expensive. Now I'm like, that's an everyday meal. I was like, Jesus, $25 a plate here? I can't afford this. Now I'm like, that ain't bad.
It's a good lunch.
Let's talk about the expansion piece. So how long into having your first location did you guys then decide that it was time to open up a second location?
So we kind of expanded within ourselves. So our first location, we just started out with 1 simulator with room for a second. So after our first winter, we had enough members to justify the second simulator, which was nice. So then after a second winter there, we started to realize hey, this is where our customers are coming from. This is, we're getting to this point of being full, because as a very small business like ours, we only have so much space.
Yep.
And so we're very in tune with how much our facility is being used, trying to provide some level of exclusivity so that if you want to book a tee time the same day, that's no problem. You're not booking weeks in advance or days in advance. It's 10 p.m. You want to golf? No problem. Right, come to our place. And so we started probably after that second winter kind of looking at options, and this popped up as a good one, this being Rockets Landing, where we're sitting today. And it just made a lot of sense from a location standpoint with the development here. And as I mentioned earlier, looking at our customer base, we had people coming from Shockoe Bottom, from Church Hill, from Manchester. And so we already had customers who would immediately be members,
Yeah,
right? Without having to do any work.
Yep.
And so that worked out really well. And I mean, I think we're kind of still focusing on growing that Rockets Landing location. We're really only one full winter in with the business here. And so winter being our peak season, which makes a lot of sense, right? Like people want to do stuff indoors in the winter rather than the summer. We'll see how things keep going, but I guess that's kind of the idea, or the plan is if we fill up again and we see a place in the Richmond area that makes sense to expand, we'd be silly not to consider it, right? And figure out, what are the golf options in that area, what are the demographics, and just kind of figure out what makes sense next. But
Would you ever look at, because being in business for 10 years, this past year was the first time I used OPM. Mm-hmm. I was very against using any form of debt to grow a business, but it was a pride thing where I'm like, I built this thing from the ground up. I used my own dollars. It was all my sweat equity, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But I realized the direction I wanted to take this company, it was going to take me triple the time to get where I need to be if I didn't access other forms of capital.
Yeah.
So is that something that you guys are considering in the future? And if not, why would you not look at taking on investors or access to capital or any of those things?
Yeah, that's something we're open to for sure. Did
I get too deep on you?
No, that's it's a fair question. It's there's a lot of things that I could talk about, right? Yeah, I don't know. That's a good. Let me think about that question for a second.
Yeah. Because I mean, the big thing with that is, I look at personal credit and business credit are two completely different things.
Sure.
Like my wife's the type where like she puts something on the credit card, she wants to have it paid off within 48 hours. Yeah. Doesn't like a penny to her name in debt. But in business, I mean, this may be a bad example, but you look at a guy like Trump who ultimately became a billionaire. He used nothing but other people's money and was able to grow himself to that level. Yeah. So there are pros and cons to it, but it's the thought process of like you can get further much faster if you're accessing capital with using other people's money.
I know this interview isn't about me asking you questions, but what is your advice on finding the right partners and finding the right money sources? Because I think that's probably the biggest concern we have, right? Is I'd be happy to work with someone else. I'd be happy to talk to someone about expanding. It's very easy to do with my brother, who I've known my whole life. I trust his work ethic and all that stuff. How do you go about finding the right partners for growing your business, for getting money, for getting investment, and that sort of thing?
I've never gone the direction of investors, although I do have some investors lined up just after years of relationships. The thing that I'm fearful about on that end is relinquishing too much control of my company.
Yep, agreed.
Main reason a lot of us get into business for ourselves is like, I don't want to take orders from somebody else. So if you end up giving up too much of your company, then now you have a board or people that you have to go to and give reports and blah, blah, blah. I'm not interested in doing that. The access to capital piece, just looking at whether it's small business loans or lines of credits and things like that, that's actually like way easier to get than I ever anticipated. Like I waited 9.5 years to even dig into it. And then come to find out like, like this is like my first business loan. I got it within a week and a half of like filling out the paperwork.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's government efficiency, I guess.
Well, I know Chase Bank. So you got SBA loans. I haven't gone that route. I've gone with traditional banks. But if you look at like Chase Bank, for instance, I'll give them a quick plug because I actually am involved in a mentorship program with them. Like they have a lot of great services for businesses. 1,000% free. But they actually have a thing going on for small businesses right now without even having to show your revenue. If you've been in business for at least a year, you can get qualified for up to $150,000 worth of credit from them.
Gotcha.
Which is insane. Like I applied for a credit card with them without having to fill out much information, and within 48, it was that night. I got approved for like a credit card for like 40 G's.
Yeah.
And it was like, because you're thinking in your head how long it took, because my credit sucked when I was in college. Guy was on
college. Yeah. Everyone's stuck.
Guy was on the college campus and he was like, hey, you get a free Biggie t-shirt if you sign up for this credit card. And I was like, bet.
Of course.
And then I went to the mall and racked it up and couldn't pay for it for like 2.5 years and wrecked my credit.
Yeah.
So I think it's first being able to separate mentally from the personal and the business aspect. And recognizing that, like, there's certain things I know, it's mainly you and your brother, but like, I got payroll. Like, I got people I got to take care of.
Yep.
And there have been times where it was like, money's a little funny and payroll's like 2 days around the corner, and just to have a line of credit that you can tap into knowing that you have funds coming in the following week, it's like, hey, I got access to $100,000 on this end. Let me pull 10 G's out to help cover payroll, and then I'll pay this back next week. Really no skin off. Yeah, so it gives you some breathing room, but it
seems like a slippery slope, I guess. Like in some cases, I think you manage it well, but I think I could see other people going the wrong way.
Oh, you can 1,000%
especially because it's funny you mentioned Chase, because I did apply for like a business account. I have a personal account with them, and I got denied because we didn't have enough business finances at the time, right? And so I think that was probably a hurdle early on as well. It was all going to be a personal loan, which we didn't want to take that risk at the time. And so maybe now that we're getting to 3-4 years in business, maybe now it's something we can consider looking at more closely.
Dude, Chase will give you between 50 to 100K like that.
And that's part of the scary part. Yeah, but that's part of the scary part too, is like, if it's that easy, what? And so, I guess I'm just kind of skeptical, but
and it's not.
But I'm not that I should be, but I just have always been that way, and it works in my favor a lot of times. Questioning why things are.
You definitely want to be questioning. I think a better thing for you would probably be a line of credit.
Sure.
So it's capital that you just have sitting there. You don't have to touch it if you don't need it.
Yeah.
But it's like, if the roof comes falling in and you're like, hey, I need a quick 20 G's.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
You're able to tap into that. But I do think every business needs it to some capacity, whether it's like you got an investor in your back pocket or you have a line of credit, credit cards, whatever the case is. Because, if you're paying off the credit card each month, it's a free business loan.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good point. I think, to be honest, we would have loved an investor early on, someone to just talk ideas off of and provide their own advice, because it's my brother and I, we're pretty like-minded individuals. And so I think that would have been really helpful. And I still really appreciate any feedback we get from our members. Like, if it's something negative, I actually love that. Because it's like,
tell me the things we're doing wrong.
Yeah, we're just two people that are almost one. We have the same backgrounds. We love the same things. And so I do wish, early on, it would have been great to have another investor, and maybe you are giving up some of your business, but maybe things go better too, right? And so it kind of depends on scale, because we're never going to be like, a regional, national business. Whereas you can work with anyone around the country, right? Which is the nice thing about the business that you're in. So maybe it depends on scale as well, but it would have been great to have an investor, and still would be great to have an investor if we could expand a third location.
So what is the expansion game plan for you guys? Because this is the thing I love about talking to entrepreneurs, is we're all different in that capacity. I literally want to rule the world. I want an Enzo media firm in 10 different states across the United States, because I think our model can work in so many different ways. Then you have some people that are just like, I don't want to staff. I don't want to have to deal with the personalities. I just want this business that's going to pay me 6 figures a year. I'm in a space that I enjoy doing, blah, blah, blah. Then you have the mid-tier of that, where it's we want multiple locations. We want to have this, but we don't want to expand too far. So let's say it's 5 years from now. Where do you see this business being for you guys?
I think ideally we're involved in some other locations, but maybe not the owners and operators. Operating,
so a franchise type model?
Yeah, kind of similar to that, or almost like a consulting model. And so we've talked to a few different entrepreneurs about that. And because if there's other companies today that offer franchises, X Golf is a franchise, 5-Iron is a franchise, they come with super high capital requirements.
What do they start at? $50K, $100K, something like that?
No, it's minimum $1 million. Probably.
Jesus, are you serious?
I think 5-Iron golf, the average 5-Iron golf is $4 million. Granted, they're in big cities. They're in DC, they're in Philly, they're in New York City.
Yeah, but still.
I think the minimum franchise.
You're better off buying a McDonald's.
You're better. There's a lot of ways to spend $4 million. I'll put it that way. But so that was an initial challenge for us, is we looked into franchising and nothing made sense. There was nothing that was within our budget starting from scratch. So we decided to go that path. And I think, if we could be a resource for people locally, if we could be a resource for people in other parts of the country where we are providing our expertise sharing what we learned from opening 2 locations on our own from scratch, which has been super helpful. And so we're working on things like that. There's actually a couple guys who opened a similar facility down in Woodlake that we talked to about doing a kind of similar partnership. But kudos to them. They just kind of wanted to do it on their own and didn't think there was enough pieces of the pie to bring us in, which is totally fine, right? And that I'm totally fine if that's your answer as an entrepreneur.
Yeah. At least you're having those conversations.
Because that's what we did too, right?
Yeah.
Like we didn't involve anyone else at the time because we thought, hey, we can figure this out. If we don't, it's on us. If we do, it's on us too. So,
have you heard of a guy named Alex Hormozy before? So big entrepreneur, like you may have come across his videos on Instagram. You need to read his stuff because basically what he did for the gym industry is what you can do for the golf industry. So he was starting his own gyms and then found out that like he was able to scale his own gyms up pretty quickly. And then all these other gym owners across the country were like reaching out to him like, hey man, can you show me how to scale this up? Like, how do I retain members? How do I do all this? So he ended up ditching all his gyms. Yeah. And now his whole business was just building other gyms. So like someone may fly him out for $30,000 and he's going to spend a week with you and show you how to build this model out. Yeah. But like, a lot of the stuff you're saying is very similar to how he built his gym model. Yep. I think you'd get a lot of tidbits from a guy like that.
That's kind of how our thought process started is people were reaching out to us like, hey, it seems like you guys are doing a great job. You're like opening a second location. I'm thinking of doing the same thing in Oklahoma and Syracuse and DC. Tell me everything you learned. It's like, so it's like, I'm not going to give you the answers to the test for free. Yeah. Or like, this isn't middle school anymore. So how can we be partners? Because I'll be the first to admit it's a two-way street, right? If we're partnering with someone, I expect to be able to learn things from them as well. And it goes back to like wanting a partner that I can bounce ideas off of too. Because if you're an entrepreneur who wants to get in this space, I'm sure you have a lot of great ideas, a lot of great concepts that we have not thought of at all. And like that would be beneficial to us as well. So it's less about like, hey, let's grow our empire and let's like take as much as we can from other people. And it's more about like working with other entrepreneurs, connecting with other entrepreneurs. Because I said to you, I think when we talked a couple of weeks ago, like I would love to just know more entrepreneurs in Richmond. There's so many people with like interesting backgrounds. Whenever I watch Shark Tank, I don't necessarily find that many products that are interesting, but it's always like the backgrounds and how they started their business. Was it a side hustle? Was it I quit my job and went all in? Like, it's like so many interesting people and so many different ways to do it that get you thinking like of all the possibilities and ways that you could work on your business or your business. So that's the coolest part about just being an entrepreneur I found is just like learning other ways that people have done things. And like the same way as you, I've never been the smartest person in the room. I try to be the hardest working because I think that makes up
That's
for
always
a lot
been
of
my
deficits.
motto.
And I think that makes a big difference. But yeah, I think that you can learn something from everyone, no matter how much experience they have, no matter what industry they work in. Yeah. It's always good to just talk to people and see what you can learn.
Yeah, I learned something the other day. Like I'm obsessed with like constantly learning. So when I'm in the car, it's podcasts, audiobooks. I always finding time throughout the day to read an article or sit down and crack a book open. And I heard from, what's his name? Byron, I can't remember his last name. Prolific public speaker. And he said something that rocked me the other day. He was like, somebody asked him like, is it hard in sales? Like is sales a difficult thing to do? And his response was so simple. Like, I was like, I'm dumb for not realizing this. He was like, no, sales isn't hard if you're selling to people who want your product. Yeah. I was like, hold up. So he like started breaking it down. He's like, where most people are messing up with sales is that you're going and trying to like pitch your product to people who have no interest in what you're doing. Yep. Versus finding people who have already expressed a need for what it is that you offer and selling to them. Yeah. Like it gets a lot easier, like price point wise, like you can charge at the top. Versus like trying to find that person you're convincing to say, hey, please come to my
your product, but you price it so low that's like, all right, I guess I'll bite. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, but I was like, when he told me that, I was like, okay. I met with my team the next day. I was like, all right, guys, we're going to do something different with sales moving forward. So I got some stuff we're working on. Nice. Let me ask you this. I always like asking entrepreneurs this because I didn't think about this 10 years ago. Do you have an exit strategy? Because as entrepreneurs, like, when you're working in corporate America, there's a nice 401k with a match, and you got
Sure.
the health benefits, and
Yeah.
maybe at a company where they have a pension plan in place for you. When you're an entrepreneur, there is no retirement plan automatically built in. You got to
Yeah.
be investing in real estate or have your money in a brokerage account or, planning to scale the business up to a certain level. And my thought was always, this is my quote unquote baby. Like, I don't ever want anybody to take this over from me. But the older I get and the further I get in business, is like, well, hold up. What am I really building here? Like, shouldn't the goal be to sell? Like, have some company come to me and say, hey, I'll give you $50 million for Intel Media Firm. Like, once you got that kind of bankroll, then it's like, I got 50 other business ideas in my head. So it's like, then I got the bankroll to go out and do some different things. What's your philosophy? Have you and your brother talked through that and said, like, hey, that we want to build it up to this point, and then maybe we do the consultant piece where people fly us out and pay us $20,000 to help us build their brand? Or are you guys like, we're doing this for the foreseeable future?
It's a good question. I mean, it's something I've struggled with. Like, I had a friend recently ask me like what my 5 to 10 year plan is, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing tomorrow, right? It's like life is crazy, business is crazy, and so it's something I'm working towards. But I think that's really good advice. I mean, to anyone listening, is like, what is your long-term plan? Like, what is the ideal situation for you? Am I still doing what I'm doing today in 20 years? Maybe not, right? Maybe it is more of the consulting side. Maybe it's not in this at all. Like 4 years ago, I never thought about owning my own business. I didn't have any plans to work in the golf industry, right? So who knows what will happen in another 4 years. And so, I think developing that strategy, though, and figuring out what your long-term goal is a great idea, because it helps with your expansion and growth opportunities as well, right? And so it's really that friend's question that sort of sparked, like, okay, that expansion piece and the maybe we can't add new facilities ourselves because we don't have the bandwidth, but maybe it's partnering with other entrepreneurs, being more of a consultant, sort of like franchising, as you put it. But I struggle to call it franchising, just because I don't think anyone needs to say, hey, we've got Indoor Golf Short Pump, we've got Indoor Golf Pittsburgh. I want to enable people to be entrepreneurs themselves. And
tell me, owner operated with
exactly. Like, tell me why. Like, tell me what you would do differently in Washington D.C. than, like, why would we copy paste our business model in a different market if your goals are different, if you're in this for different reasons? And so, like, let us share our pain points. Let us share what we've learned. The commercial real estate piece I mentioned, which is a huge cost of the business like us.
Right now, you're next door to a commercial real estate firm.
That helps. Yeah. Shout out to Icon for connecting us as well.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, so like stuff like that where we can be helpful, but also say, hey, look, like, you want to be an entrepreneur and you must have good ideas. Like, go ahead and take care of those. And so, but yeah, as a long-term plan, that's just such a struggle with where I am in life. Like,
it's a hard thing as an entrepreneur because, like, day to day, I mean, we got to go out and hunt literally every single day.
100%.
Because at any given time, like, people look at it and they're like, oh, you got 2 locations, or they come by here like, man, this is an awesome office. And you don't know what's going on in the back end.
No clue.
Like, what people are seeing on the front end. Like, normally the brokest people are driving the most expensive cars. Like, the people with the $150,000 vehicle may have $5,000 in the bank. So, like, appearances aren't everything. But, like, it's been a struggle for me too, just thinking, I got in the business prior to getting married, like before I even knew my wife and we had kids. But my thought was always, I want to have been in business long enough to be established so that when I do have kids, when they get to the age where it's like ballet recitals and soccer practice and all these different things, I don't have to miss those things because I have to go to my boss and ask, hey,
that's
is
a
it
dream,
cool
right?
if I go do that?
That's why you do this. Yeah, that's why most people should do this. Yeah. Some people do it for the wrong reasons, but I like that.
Yeah. But being able to think, like, down the road, like, really, and I'm the type of person that it's very hard for me to look, like, backwards and say, like, oh, we accomplished this, we accomplished that, because I'm always looking at the next thing. Like, I could close my biggest deal in company history today, and I'll sip champagne for 10 minutes, then I'm like, all right, who's next? What's the next one? Like, it's the hunger of the game.
Totally agree. Do you guys have, like, a season, like busy seasons, peak seasons?
Oh, yeah.
Because I think that is where I struggled as well. So, like, we're coming out of the winter, which, as I mentioned earlier, super busy time for us. Day to day, it's just like, hey, here's another person that wants to check out the facility. Here's another person that wants to sign up for membership. and I just didn't have time to kind of think about long-term goals. So like, do you have those kind of ebbs and flows of like busyness and kind of have to put that short-term versus long-term hat on from time to time?
So I always plan November, December. They're your best months. They're my worst months. Because people are.
Maybe we can switch somehow.
People are doing the holiday
You can come work for me in
parties.
November, December.
I'll come clean the bays up, man.
Yeah.
But people are more focused on like the company parties, taking holiday trips and all that kind of stuff. So they're less focused on their marketing. Plus, they've probably had a strategy and a game plan throughout the year for that. So we're typically not picking up new clients.
And they're all running out of money. If they're a big company, their budgets are
exactly.
Having worked for big companies before, they're
exactly
all cutting costs at the end of the year.
Beautiful thing for us is like 85% of the clients that we serve are with us on a monthly basis. Like they're signing contracts between 6 to 12 months.
That's awesome.
Even though it may be November, December, if you signed up in September, we still got you as a client going into the new year. Normally the first quarter of each year is our busiest time, as like it's the start of the new year. People are setting new goals. They're like, all right, we got to get our website up to speed. We need some new video. We got to get the social media
wallets
in check.
Open.
All that kind of stuff. But I think that's a mistake a lot of entrepreneurs make, is thinking that it's all gravy throughout the year and like, oh, we're popping now. Like this is never going to slow down. Like that's why I was probably in business for your brother's an accountant, so you guys are probably a lot smarter with this than I was. I didn't have a reserve account until at least 5 years into my business. I didn't think about like, oh, I should probably be saving some of this that's coming through. Luckily, we never got back on taxes or anything like that. But like just having that breathing room where it's like, hey, we got an opportunity. Like I need to go out and buy a $7,000 piece of equipment in order to do this $30,000 job. Like I wasn't thinking that way before. Or just the fact that like, hey, at any given month, like something could happen. And like, if we default on any side of our agreement, a client could just outright cancel. Or a business that we're serving, we've had it happen before. Some small businesses that we were working with, they went out of business within 3-4 months of us starting to work with them. And it's like, I have no control over something like that.
You do? Sure.
So it's always that projection in terms of not just financially, but like, okay, what's on the cusp? Like right now, I'm like delving really hard into AI because that's dramatically going to shift my industry in terms of marketing. Now, do I think it's going to fully replace what we do? Absolutely not. I think the storytelling component to what we can do as humans is much different, and AI is still a couple of years away from that. I do think there are certain sectors in terms of like graphic design where like AI is just going to take over with that. But it's forecasting and saying, okay, there's no point in fighting this. I know it's coming. How can I use that to my advantage as we scale and move forward? So I think that's the big thing as an entrepreneur, is like always having to look 6 to 12 months down the road and see, okay, what's coming? Like, because if you see a report coming up saying, hey, 40% of adults are now getting into golf that were never exposed to the sport before. You're like, okay, how am I going to house all these people?
Absolutely.
Like, I got to be looking down the road like to figure this out. Let me ask you one more thing as we wrap up. Being in business with someone you're related to can be a very tricky thing. I've like my last boss, him and his wife were running the company. I work for a mental health agency. And number one, I know me and my wife's marriage would not last if we were both working in the same business. We've established that a long time ago. Because I'll have to tell her to do something and she ain't going to listen to me. Because she's the CEO of our house. I'm the CEO here.
Fair enough.
I've always told people like that can be a very tricky space to be in because, if you're both not in line, if the skill sets don't match, if you guys aren't complimenting each other, that can be a very difficult Thanksgiving if you have to part ways and like things go downhill. So how have you guys navigated that, and what's the relationship been like running a business with your brother?
It's something everyone has to think about right before they go into business. Is it a friend? Is it a family member? The nice thing is that you early on think you can trust them and like you have that relationship with them. But I've either just been very fortunate or I don't know what's going on. But no, we get along really well, and so far so good with that. I mean, we have disagreements like most brothers do. But it's worked out pretty well. I mean I think I very fortunately I've had a good relationship with him, that we run a business that's pretty straightforward, that we're both aligned on, and maybe that's where a lot of people go wrong is, one partner gets into business for another reason than you, but things change over time. Or like your goals change over time, and what the long-term vision of the business looks like changes over time. And so I could see it going wrong for a number of reasons, but fortunately we have different strengths, which I think helps a lot as well, as I had mentioned before.
That's the big thing.
Different experiences. And so he takes on things that I don't know or like, and I take things off his plate that, that I can. So that helps a ton, and knowing our strengths and weaknesses, but also being like open to each other's feedback is something that I think we've both been very good at. So,
you just described a very healthy business partnership.
Yeah.
Because the most successful, I've probably had 10 business partners up to this point in various businesses. And the ones where the partnerships failed, we were both going after the same thing. So like here, I'm the face of the company. If you got two people that are fighting for that same space, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Like my most successful business partnerships guy, I was telling you about earlier, that I've launched a couple businesses with. He's the behind the scenes guy. He's the analytic guy. He does spreadsheets. I don't even know how to start. If you open up a spreadsheet and say, Sam, I need you to make this, I have no idea how to do an Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah.
I can go and read a report on there and everything, but I'm not that guy. All the stuff I hated to do, he loved to do.
Yeah.
He didn't want to be out in front of the camera and do anything with the marketing. I love doing that stuff. He didn't want any piece of that.
Absolutely.
So like when you have that yin and yang balance where it's like this person has these specific skill sets, the other one has these, and you're able to come together.
For sure.
Whether it's a blood relative or a friend or whatever the case is, like I think those are the most successful relationships.
Yeah, no, it definitely helps a lot. Like I said, just very lucky, and things can change. I mean, you can be good friends with someone, have a good relationship with someone, and if your goal changes, that makes a big difference. But it's fingers crossed, keeps working.
Nice. So as we wrap up, kind of give us, if people want to come check out your facility, so I know you can't just like walk into your doors.
Right.
So if people want to get a tour, they want to inquire about memberships, how can they reach out to you?
Yeah, Indoor Golf RVA is our social media, and indoorgolfrva.com is our website. So we're a 24/7 facility that's typically unstaffed. That's how we provide cost savings to our members. So you just have to reach out to request a tour if you want to come see the facility, or you can sign up for membership on our website. We're in Scott's Addition, Rockets Landing, and if you're looking to golf, 24/7 access is pretty nice. We have over 300 courses, and it's just a good way to keep your game sharp regardless of the season, really. Lots of good people to meet. We have free social events. So for a lot of people that are new to golf, trying to meet other golfers, it's a great way to do it. We got a lot of people that are moved here from out of town and things like that. So it's just a great way to kind of build that sense of community that is what I love so much about golf. Right? It's just like getting people together and having a good time.
Love it. Guys, I checked out his facility right before we jumped on the mics. It's definitely something you want to check out. I love the concept of 24/7. You're having a bad day, you put the kids down to bed, and it's like, hey, I'm gonna go hit some golf balls for a little bit.
Yep.
But hey, man, appreciate you coming on. I look forward to working with you in the future and hopefully getting some swings in over at one of your facilities here pretty soon.
Thanks, Sam. Appreciate it. Yeah, first podcast, as your listeners can probably tell, but appreciate you doing this.
I know, you did great, man.
This is great stuff. I think it's a great way to just have a conversation. And like I said, I think everyone can learn things from everyone. So It's a great platform to do it.
Love it.
Thanks again for having me.
Appreciate you, man.
Thanks, Sam.
We'll see you guys on the next episode.